Tron franchise is an odd one. Every time a Tron movie comes out, it breaks new ground in terms of visual effects, gets a mild reception upon release, but then slowly gains a following as time goes on. That's probably why Disney has never really invested a lot into this franchise the way they did with Marvel's Star Wars, as both movies have been a bit of a slow burn. Personally, I really like these movies. I remember watching the first one when I was a kid thinking this is the coolest shit I've ever seen. I didn't quite get Tron Legacy when it first came out, but upon a rewatch years later, I ended up loving it. And a follow-up to that movie has long been awaited. And now in 2025, we finally got that follow-up with Tron Ares. So does this movie live up to its predecessors? Yes. But also no. The best way I can describe Tron Ares is a beautiful mess. It perfectly recaptures the visual style of Tron Legacy, most of the performances were really good, and the music is just incredible. But I also have to admit that this is probably the weakest of the Tron movies. Normally I do quick reviews of recent movies on my Instagram. By the way, follow me on Instagram. But I have a lot of thoughts on this movie that I needed to make a video on it. So here we go. Also, spoilers for Tron Ares. You've been warned. Visually, this movie is beautiful. It's not as good looking as Legacy. That's kind of the sacrifice you make when you set it in the real world instead of just the grid. But I really did love revisiting the world of Tron in all its neon-soaked glory. And even scenes in the real world are pretty cool, with the chase scene where the bike cuts the cop car in half and does an Akira slide. Just, oh, that's the sauce right there. And I love the finale with the Recognizer versus the Air Force. That was awesome. If you're looking for more of that Tron aesthetic, you'll be satisfied. I really liked Greta Lee's character, Eve Kim, and honestly, she shines as the movie's MVP. She kind of acts as the co-lead, and she has one of the more compelling stories in the movie, where she's trying to finish off her sister's work before quitting, but then realizes she can do more by sticking with it. And I especially loved Evan Peters and Gillian Anderson as the Dillingers. They both gave magnificent performances, and it was interesting to see their already shaky relationship get even worse as time went on. And of course, the music. Oh, the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack is so good. It's not really a patch on Daft Punk's work on Legacy, but the fact that it came even close is an accomplishment in of itself. Now, while there's a lot to like about Tron Ares that would make you consider subscribing to the franchise, I think its biggest problem is probably the same issue I had with the live-action Avatar show. The pacing. We'll get to the other thing in a minute. Like, this movie goes at 100 miles an hour, and because of that, a lot of things don't get explored as deeply as it wants to. And I feel like if this movie just took its time, it might have been able to spread things out a bit more evenly. But as a result, it's got a lot going on, and a lot of it is undercooked. And I think the character that represents this the most is, unfortunately, Ares, played by Jared Leto. Yeah, I think half the reason people aren't watching this movie is because of Leto. And that's actually understandable. He's a creep and a cult leader, so yeah. And not only is he the lead of the movie, but he's also the producer. So now him and Tron are a package deal. And this is kind of a Sophie's choice for a lot of fans. On the one hand, you want to support an awesome high-concept sci-fi franchise that deserves its time in the sun, but then you'd also be supporting this guy.
Why did you make me do this?
And it's a real shame because there's a lot of good people that worked hard on this movie, both on and behind the camera, and it's all getting dragged down by this prick. And even if we ignore all that and focus on his role in the movie, he's still the weakest part of the whole thing. Outside of a couple of cool scenes, you never really feel a connection with Ares. Leto has the same monotone delivery and bewildered facial expression throughout the whole movie. And you'd think that would fit a computer program, but when his arc is about becoming more human, I mean, you gotta give us something. He doesn't even have any chemistry with any of his co-stars, even the one he's supposed to have some sort of romantic feelings for. And while Leto's uncharismatic performance doesn't work, he isn't really helped by the writing. Ares is a very half-baked character and actually represents a lot of the problems I have with this movie. The themes of free will and what it means to be human are explored through this character, and it just doesn't work. There's no proper build-up to him going rogue. From the jump, we can see him beginning to question everything. And then when he sees a real girl, he instantly falls in love with her. I don't know, I just feel like I would have liked to have seen this change of heart in him develop, rather than noticing it immediately and just waiting for him to act on it. I think this was because the writers didn't want the audience to hate Ares, so they didn't commit to him being evil at the start, which is such a cop-out. You can have your character start off as a bastard so long as you really put in the work to make his arc compelling, instead of a character who doesn't start off that evil and becomes more good after reading a girl's DMs and a quote from Frankenstein. This arc is rarely done through visuals. There's a lot of telling rather than showing, and that's super boring. Like, a really good example of this is his love of Depeche Mode that he mentions in a couple of scenes. When he's talking to Flynn, he says he doesn't know how to explain his love for them in words, but it's just a feeling that he has. Now, this isn't really a bad scene. Great to see Kevin Flynn again.
Greetings, program.
But it doesn't really feel earned. It would have hit a lot harder if we got to see Ares listening to Depeche Mode and we see something spark in him when he first hears it. I just feel like they knew what they wanted to do with this character, but they stumbled in the execution. But you know where they didn't stumble? With Athena. While Ares has a half-baked positive change arc, Athena has an incredible negative change arc. And if they strengthened up the writing for Ares, then these two would have been perfect foils. A really good example of this is when she experiences rainfall for the first time. She doesn't know how to process the new sensation, and Jodie Turner-Smith is doing a great job of portraying this confusion and conflict. And you can see how this experience makes her double down in the final act. And I like that while Ares goes rogue because he chooses to defy his orders, Athena goes rogue because she's following her orders to an extreme degree. That's good. That's some good symmetry right there. I think that if the movie built up the relationship between these two more, have them start off as characters that are very similar to each other, but are both given an opportunity to change, and as a result take different paths and become enemies, it would have been a much more compelling story. But because of Ares' poor writing and rushed character arc, the movie just feels shallower than I think was the original plan. Tron Ares is definitely not the worst movie of the year. I know it's getting a bit of a kicking online at the moment, but I think there is a lot to like here. A lot of this has just been me ranting about Leto, but I think everything else in this movie works really well. I just really like Tron, and I would love to see this world explored in further media. I can see this movie gaining a cult following, not that one, as time goes on, just like its predecessors. There are lessons to learn from Tron Ares, and I think this franchise does have a potential future beyond it. But please fire Jared Leto. Hey everyone, thank you for watching. What did you think of Tron Ares? Was I too harsh on Jared Leto? Was I not harsh enough on Jared Leto? And what would you like me to cover next? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for further content. Have a good day.